Uh-oh. I don't think it did a countdown, bro. I think we just live. Shantae, what's up, baby? How you doing?
What's going on?
Oh man, I don't know. Yeah, our fearless leader's out, so we're in here trying to do what him, do what he does, and we are showing our true colors here right now. But hey,
That's
shout out
right.
to Ian real quick. Um, he's his birthday's tomorrow, so if anybody's on here, just give him a quick shout out. You know him, you love him, just show him some love and let him know it's happy birthday, right? So that's why our man isn't on there. He's spending time with his lovely wife, celebrating in that birthday. So I'd say, man, what's going on with you? Let's talk about how your days going, weeks going. What's going on with you, bro?
Week been pretty good. Uh, had a short day yesterday, you know, for work, so it was an interesting day. I'll put it like that. So I had to say, you know what? I think I'm just gonna go ahead and go home,
Uh huh.
and chill with Aubrey. You know, and she made it. You know, baby girl made it all better just to be around her. So yeah, been pretty. It was a pretty easy week though. wasn't too rough as the previous ones have been kind of long.
Mm-hmm.
So just that. And of course, got a on in a couple weeks doing a presentation, a debrief presentation. Got about four debriefs to do within the next few weeks. One of the people just finished, so that's exciting. Just sending them
Mm-hmm.
emails saying, "Oh, see you finished your disc debrief. Look forward to, I mean, your disc assessment. Looking forward to the debrief. Make sure
Right.
you read it over once." And so just been prepping for that. You know, do a few debriefs and then do a presentation and keep it rolling. How your
Gotcha.
week been?
Gotcha. Yeah. Can't complain. Actually, yeah, can't complain at all, bro. It's been a good week, man. Uh, looking forward to this week. But again, just been trying to figure makes the day all great again, right? Same thing with uh I come wife, kids, family. If there's only one space that's right, it's always that. All right.
Yes,
At least it's easy going on out there. But other than that, man, my day last week pretty good. Had the opportunity to get on a platform that I've with a place called Builders Academy here in Louisville, Kentucky. So shout out to them, giving them a big thanks and an ups for allowing me to get on their platform and speak. They did a workshop and a seminar, um, and I was a part of that. So that was kind of my big highlight of last week. But it was
yeah.
good times. I think presentation. I think I had about 100 people online that was watching. So
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, yeah,
Is that
yeah.
the
So
one? That ain't the. No, I think that's something different. That ain't the one you had posted about a minute
yeah,
about.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Oh, that
That's the
one.
one.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it
Oh,
was some
I
kind of
missed
like
it.
there was 64th annual something.
Yeah, yeah,
I can't remember. Yeah, I can't remember. But it was awesome. It was awesome. So it was a good time. My mom and dad jumped on it. Yeah, so they jumped on it.
Oh,
So that
yeah,
was yeah. So it was kind of my especially for my mom. She's heard me speak and stuff. But it was my first time for my dad for him to speak.
yeah.
So or for him to hear me speak. So that was kind of I had to admit a little nerve a little bit. So. But what's good, man? What do you want to jump in today? Um, and I guess let me just give a shout out to everybody who's joining now with us right now, or if they're gonna, catch the replay. This is the Brothers of Influence podcast, where we stand to encourage, inspire, and add value to Black men in the areas of life, leadership, and community. So I appreciate y'all tuning in today. It's just me and my boy Shate today. Ian is he's out celebrating his birthday, and my man he's he's taking care of some business as well. So again, we just appreciate everybody coming on. So hey, what we gonna rap about today, man?
What we gonna rap about today?
I
What are we going to rap around today?
don't know.
You
Did I throw that out there? I did throw something out there, didn't I?
yeah,
Well, yeah,
you
okay, yeah, yeah. So So I told you I was, I did that speak or seminar and stuff this past week, and it was interesting because the platform about thinking, that book by Napoleon Hill, great book, right? I think it's like the number one personal development book that's out, right? That's, I mean, it's been out for. I mean, it's just still like the number one book, but that was kind of the theme. But on the overarching theme was, or my area of where I talked about during my talk was identifying and addressing poor habits, right? Identifying and addressing poor habits. That was kind of my area. So I think it was such a great discussion. I only had like 15 minutes to really talk about it, but I think I would love to really talk about that today. Because I mean, here's the reality. We all have good and we all have bad poor habits, right? Good, bad, good or bad, whatever the case may be. And it was interesting. So just to go ahead and jump in the deep end, what I then was this, that basically habits, good or bad, are the infrastructure to our lives. Right. Yeah. Right. So habits are the infrastructure to our lives, good or bad. Right. They actually even determine where we're at or going or how we're even going to get there. Essentially, the number one thing that we always talk about, especially when we talk about like success, is that of success habits. But the question is how do you develop success habits? Right. Identifying and creating those different things. But in order for you to get good habits, you got to identify the bad habits. Yeah.
So I think one of my first, questions that kind of popped in my head would be, how do you know how do you differentiate the two? And so
okay.
So that's what I'm presenting to you then. Put it like that.
Oh, okay. So you want to throw it back at me? Like, so okay, that's a good question.
Because let me ask. The reason I ask is because everybody's bad habits aren't necessarily bad for someone else. So that's why I'm kind of asking, how does the individual identify the good and bad?
Yeah. So it wasn't even necessarily, so the I took it from was really just looking at it from just identifying our own poor habits, right? And again, I think it's very important to understand just even the terminology. So I don't want to even look at it from good or bad, but I think just more so from poor habits, because we all have good or bad habits, right? But let's look at it from the perspective of poor habits, because poor habits mean that it could be good, but eventually, if I stop doing it, guess what? Now it's right, but poor habits. So it's identifying them. And one of the things that I think that's important when we think about our habits, just really, where does that come from? Foundational about habits. Where does that originate from? Like, self-awareness. That's the number one thing. Yeah. Right. Self-awareness. And one of the things I shared with the group at the time was the fact that not only is self-awareness important in identifying my habit, but it's also, in order to really understand my habits, I really got to have a purpose. If I don't know why I'm doing what I'm doing, then I can't even really develop and create that habit. Right. And let's even think about even taking a little step further, that, I mean, it's almost even from a mindset standpoint, growth or fixed mindset, that again, our habits are developed through our thoughts, our actions, and the environments that we're in. So really, when you want to look at identifying our habits, it's based on that, the thoughts that we're thinking, the actions that come from those thoughts, and then even the environments that we're in.
Yeah. So if I'm getting this right, so let's say a person that's exercising, which would be considered a good habit, someone that exercises.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be good if it's consistent and it's beneficial. And so now I'm using that example because some people they work out, but they don't eat right. So it's consistent, but it isn't as beneficial because you'll still get strong. However, you know, that person, you also need to be eating right at the same time. Now on the opposite end, so it can be good and it can be bad, but on the opposite end, the person that says they're working out but they're not consistent, now we're talking about a bad habit because you're working out every other day, you know what I'm saying, when you feel like it. So you're really not in doing it the proper way for it to be, you know, beneficial and have a consistency to it. Is that
Right.
kind of, is that correct?
Yeah,
Or
I mean, I think I mean, it's the all the above, right? So, let's even just walk through. Um, I mean, let's just think about this. Like me, a bad habit could be like biting my nails, or a poor habit would be that of biting my nails, right? Or let's see, something along the lines of the classic one, right? Always showing up late, right? They
yeah,
instead of being on time, right? That's a poor habit, right? Thinking that, well, shoot, I'll just get there when I get there, not understanding that again, our habits, again, are a direct reflection of our actions and our thought, right? And
yeah,
then let's even think about it from the perspective of, just from a professional standpoint, from a leadership perspective, that even our habits are a reflection of who we are and how we look at
yes,
things, right? So again, let's look at it from the perspective of, putting on, your best foot forward, or that first impression. So
yes,
the habits that we demonstrate then is going to allow somebody to know and understand if they want to do business with you, or if they're going to think you're the type of person they need on their team. Like all those different things we have to really take consideration when we think about our habits.
yeah.
And then
It was
go ahead.
what you it was, I when you brought up the nail biting, that's something that I had to learn about myself.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know, when you do stuff and you just been doing it for so long, you don't realize. But that was one of the things I found out about myself, that when I'm doing it, whether I know what the problem is or not, there's something going on that I need to address.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and that's just something I learned. And so I, you know, started paying attention to my nails, keeping them cut, different stuff like that, because I would use the excuse,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, I'm just gonna bite them off instead of cut, you know, it, what I always say, excuses are lies we tell ourselves. I didn't know why. It was just, it was an issue behind it. And it's funny because I had a aunt and a cousin that they bit their nails and even the skin up on their nails really bad. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And
Uh-huh.
so that's and I just point out to say that a lot of bad habits stem from issues that we don't really realize too. You know, and so that's when you said that, that kind of sparked in my mind. A lot of the bad habits that we develop are because of unresolved issues, oftentimes.
Right. Or, and in some cases, and I wish Ian was here, because I definitely know he would speak to this, because what you're bringing up is a great, interesting point, because it could be also a coping mechanism, right? That
Ah, yeah,
actually, that, you know what I'm saying? From a mental health perspective, or from a trauma, or, something of that nature. But even, even so, let me even go back and answer the question even more specifically that you asked when you said, okay, so, how do we identify? I think the number one thing in helping us, I really identify and really help us to address any type of uh, behavior issue, whatever the case may be, is really understanding it. So the number one thing we're talking about is how do we identify and address poor habits? So if I was to tell
hmm,
you and ask you to define a habit, what would you say a habit is?
a habit. Uh, I would say it's something consistent, and even it's something consistent, and even possibly something you do unknowingly. So it's something consistent and it's something you do unknowingly. Is it, and it's the everyday part of your life. And so I'm a
Right, right.
kind of for me, one of the things is like I like love sweets, man. Like I done had times where even now I went to, matter of fact, a few weeks ago at
Mm-hmm.
Sam's Club. Ain't eating the sweets like I used to. It's just like, you know, I don't be buying them. And you know, I get home and I got a box of something. And it's like, seriously? All the stuff I'm buying like salads. So I just start, you know, buying salads. I eat salad once or twice a day, things like that. But here I am with this box of cakes. But it stems from a habit that I had constantly been doing. I would always love sweets, so I pick something up, I eat it, be working. I work in the evenings, so I would just be driving around, be snacking and things like that. So when you said that,
but you're right, dude. Like, so yeah. So here's the Webster definition, right? So a habit is a routine behavior that is repeated regularly and tends to occur subconsciously.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. But that's amazing when you think about that. When identify that specifically to habits, you're like, ooh. So again, it's a behavior that's repeated consistently over and over and over and over again, right? To the point to where you do it like how many times have you driven back and forth from work? You can do that with your eyes closed, right? Yeah, right. Like you heard the saying, like I'm on autopilot, right? It'd be plenty of times where when I leave work, I'll mess around and I end up at the store because I've done it so many times, and I'm like, I ain't even trying to go. I'm trying to go home, right? Or
have you ever? And when you said that, have you ever on the way home from work and you literally might have something on your mind and you just figure that and you end up at work, and so it's like, how did I get here? Like literally, you'd be like, what? So I done had that happen. Just have stuff on my mind, getting off of work, stuff on my mind. And yeah, another thing that's kind of with that is when I was talking about recognizing certain situations, like I noticed because I work in the evening, so usually I get off 12:30 in the morning, and a way I know that I'm tired is I tend not to do the speed limit. So I know I'm tired. I look down, I'm doing 60, 65, and I'm in the 70. I know because I'm usually gonna do the speed limit, and I'm gonna keep it real. Sometimes do a couple miles over.
I was wondering, so if you're tired, do you go faster or do you go slower?
But I literally go slower. So that tells me, even if I'm not feeling tired, it tells me that's a trigger for me that I know that I am tired. That's like no, don't go home and get on the computer before you go to bed. No, that you need rest. So.
Yeah. Absolutely. Most cases for me, when I'm tired and I'm driving, that I kind of go up. Yeah, because I'm like, man, I got to get to the house. But I mean, but that's the reality though. But again, that's what a habit is, man. And again, I know we know what a habit is, but it's just interesting sometimes when we think about, when we really look at something and then really define, trying to address, right? So again, it's a routine behavior. So think about all this that you have, and then how many can you point out and be like, oh, that's a routine behavior. It's routine. It's routine, right? Again, get up, you brush your teeth, routine, right? You get dressed, you get ready for routine, right? You can do it just with your eyes closed. It's because you've done it so many times. But again, now when we think about, okay, now let's identify and address poor habits. That's a little different. Yeah. Now it's like, okay, if it's a poor habit, like you asked the question, how do I identify that? Like, how do I know if it's a poor habit or not? And I think it's very important for leaders to understand that as leaders, it's our job and responsibility not to only not create those poor habits and to identify and address them for ourselves, but also and identify them for our team members too, right? Or those that are under us, and I think it's very important for us to really, and I think that's kind of a discussion. This is one of those things that, again, we know about it, but we don't really talk about it, right? You're like, man, I wish I could change it. I wish I could change that. Or I don't understand why I'm at this particular point. And that's why self-awareness is so important, because, again, it allows you to really, really hone in and see. And another part that I had talked to them about was that self-awareness and resilience is actually the best defense to healthy and unwanted habits. Self-awareness and resilience, right? Because if I'm more aware of who I am, how I do what it is I do, how I think, and this, right? Especially with DISC, right? When you start going through those, again, D, how I make decisions, I, how I interact with people, S, how I steady myself within my environment, and C, right, processes and procedures. When I understand those different and how they play within my actions and my thought habits, right, and even within my environment, because that's all of those kind of, it's like that perfect mix, then I can really identify, okay, what habits are created, what habits are good habits, what habits are poor habits. Does that make any sense? Like
yeah,
you're able to really kind of step out of it and be like, okay, I really need to look at it, and see how I can address these and identify some of these things.
exactly. And you said like a person might say, well, why am I doing this? Why am I doing that? And I think the next step for that, because one of our mentors, John C. Maxwell, he wrote a book, Good Leaders Ask Great Questions, I believe it is. And
yes,
I think that's one thing, that's how we too often fail ourselves, because we don't ask ourselves the right questions. So you gave the example, if somebody is saying, well, why do I keep doing this? Or why haven't I got to where well, you got to ask the right questions. Even the self-defeating, or I call the negative thought patterns that we have, it's about asking the right questions. If there's a person that's saying to themselves, I can't do this, they need to ask themselves a question. Is that true? Now, even if you say yes, it's true, how do you know it's true?
Right.
Now, even if you said yes to the first one, now is how do you know it's true? Now you're gonna have to think some more about it, because that's the reality of it. How do you know that that's true, that you can't do something? And
right.
if we learn to ask the right questions about these bad habits we might have, I think it'll help us on our journey to correcting them, and being able to, as we become more self-aware, being able to change them or make them better.
I agree, man, bro. And that's actually a great point, right? Again, great leaders ask great questions, right? There's so much power in questions that I think we miss the opportunity. We underutilize the power of a question, because again, the number one thing, good questions, basically what they do is they unlock doors. Yes. Because if I ask a question, guess what I exactly have to do? I got to think about it. Right? So, yeah. So when you ask, oh, well, and here's the reality. I would say most of the time, depending on the conversation, the question that's asked is not really a question that's off the wall that you really have no information about. Like, you really can't answer it. But again, it's probably a question that you never really thought about. So what basically then have to jump in, and there he is, the man, the myth, the legend.
Woo! He's in the building.
What's going on, brother? Hey, trying to fill your shoes that's what's up. That's what we're trying to do. Trying to fill your shoes.
Y'all take up our own space. What's good?
Hey, no, man.
Happy birthday to it's tomorrow. Okay.
I'm with you though. Yeah, man. What's going on, bro?
Oh man,
how you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. We just got back home with the family. We had our little time together today. Had some quality time with the wife, and then we picked up the kid from kids camp. So started from the bottom. Now we're here. Let's go.
Let's go. Yeah. That's what's up. Well, yeah, dude. We on here talking about identifying and addressing poor habits.
Oh, okay.
Identifying and addressing poor habits, and it's kind of just about like, and this came from a conversation I had this week, just on a different platform with a group of people, and we're just talking about, and it was just a great conversation. So kind of just picked up, but we were just talking about how to identify them, and just how to, the biggest thing is really, self-awareness, right? And how being self-aware of who you are, again, our thought patterns, our actions, the environments that we're in, right? And then of course, with us, we always going to go back to the disc, right? It's how we steady ourselves within our environment. And, just to see about, again, processes, procedures, is different things like that. Shate brought up about just asking questions, right? The power of questions. And that's kind of where we're at right now. That again, and what I was telling him is that I think that's one of the superpowers that is kind of underutilized questions, right? Because again, the power of the question is it unlocks doors because it gets you to start thinking, right? And what I was sharing with him is that it's never a question that you completely don't know any answer to or don't have any information on. But usually it'll tap into an area to where you have to start thinking. And usually what questions do is it hits that subconscious area, right? And again, when I defined what a habit was, it said that it's a routine behavior that is repeatedly that tends to occur subconsciously, right? So it's that area of mind where the subconscious has all this information. But once you start asking questions, and Shante brought up a good point about just asking yourself the question. So it's not even about asking someone else, but asking yourself, like, where's that bad habit coming from, or that poor habit coming from? Like, why am I thinking like that? Why am I acting like that? Right. So that's kind of where we at. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I see y'all already in the trenches. I mean, I guess y'all been going about 30 minutes already, so I should have expected it. Yeah, man. I think listening to your kind of summary and overview, I appreciate you catching me up. It's like, what was that definition of habit again?
Yes. So a habit is a routine of behavior repeated regularly that tends to occur subconsciously.
Yeah, I think what sticks out to me is the subconscious. Right? It's in it. When you have a habit and it's rooted in the subconscious, like most habits are, they're easy to continue and hard to stop. Right? When you guys may have already touched on this, but it's like the subconscious wiring that we all have. Like when we talk about subconscious, this means it's something you do on autopilot, right? And you touching on self-awareness. I mean, that's a critical ingredient to changing your habits because they are subconscious. Like if you're not aware of them, if they're on autopilot, then they function with or without your intention or your thought. They function with or without your care. So, right, these are things that really catch you slipping, right? Because you're not fully aware of what's happening, and really, I heard, I think a fan of a guy named by the name of Dr. Amen. I know Shante is a fan of that guy. I don't know if you've heard of him, Sherrod. But he deals with brain.
Oh,
health.
yeah. Okay.
Then there was another guy. I can't think of his name right now. But anyway, one of the illustrations that I've heard that kind of helped me understand is like, have you ever been in the car and then you start on your way to somewhere, to a destination, and then you wake up and you're there and you're like, I don't even know how I got here. Well, what's happened? Like you have been driving so long that your mind, your physical, your mental, everything can go on autopilot and get you to where you need to go. And you didn't even have to be fully present. Your mind could have been thinking about the argument you had with your wife. You could have been thinking about, how you're going to talk to your kid about this issue that they've been having. You could have been thinking about, saying something at work that come up where you feel like you got to have a hard conversation and it's making you anxious. But somehow your body, your hands, and your feet drove you all to go. And you wake up and you're like, man, I didn't even realize I done pulled in the parking lot. I've been staring at my phone for the last 10 minutes. Like,
Yep.
That's how deep habits go. And we don't even realize it.
Yeah. Oh, we got the man on here now. So remember when you had made that mention, Shante, about the what'd you say? It's deeply rooted. He said, I don't know. But you said something, but basically along the lines of so we connected, and I said that sometimes our habits come from, it could be a coping mechanism.
Oh yeah,
right. Or definitely like when we were talking in the mental health month about trauma and different things like that. That again, those are the things that can also help aid in developing habits. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, say that one more time.
Your thoughts on
when I was
again?
talking about my fingers? Is that what you're talking about? When I was talking about my fingers?
Yeah, you said something.
Okay.
Yeah, but something to the effect. So my question is, in like, so from a dramatic trauma or from a coping mechanism standpoint, is that another way or another avenue in which how we form habits?
Oh, for sure.
Mm.
Oh, hold on, buddy. Oh, I'll talk to you about that in a second. All right. So absolutely. When it comes to coping mechanisms, they naturally become habitual because they're usually born of your body's natural defense to something, right?
Okay.
That's a reaction that you're not necessarily thinking about, but you're self-preserving, and so you almost lash out in defense. Whatever that coping mechanism is, if you're not intentional about developing something healthy, then you're usually just going to develop it based on whatever you're feeling at the time, which means you're going to avoid what feels uncomfortable or feels bad, and you're going to gravitate to something that helps you feel good or takes you away from the thing that you're trying to escape. And all of that can happen completely in your subconscious. So like I know growing up, and I see my 5-year-old, he's like this too, because he's, we've talked about how he behaves a lot like an introvert. You know what I'm saying? He's only 5, so I'm gonna give him time. Like, I'm not trying to label him, but I'm like, man, you acted a lot like an introvert right now, but like whenever he gets, I won't say in trouble, but like whenever we need to confront an issue with him, he tends to freeze. He tends to shut down. And that's a defense mechanism where you withdraw within yourself to distance yourself from the discomfort of the confrontation you're facing. He doesn't even know it. But as we grow, as we're all grown men on here, we've come to the understanding that conflict is important. Conflict resolution is important. So even though we have a tendency to withdraw in those situations, we know that we have to make a choice to kind of dig ourselves out of that hole and like face whatever it is. Otherwise, it's going to bite us, right? But naturally, even from a young age, he's already got that defense where he he kind of shrinks, makes himself small, like, and you're like, bro, you're not in trouble. We're just trying to understand where you're coming from.
Right.
But when faced with that discomfort, with that conflict, with that confrontation, it's a natural way to cope. Like, oh, I don't feel safe right now, so let me withdraw.
Right. Yeah. So things I mentioned is that like self-awareness and resilience is actually a great defense to really, unhealthy and poor habits. But now I want to just even kind of shift gears a little bit, and you kind of navigated us there. Is there a way for prevention, right? And I think, and when I say prevention, I think it's also tied to, again, our awareness, but also then connecting that to what you were kind of talking about, and that's triggers, right? So there's different things that can trigger like those habits. It could be I don't know if it goes as far as a smell, but a sound. Right. I mean, again, a firecracker jump off. Right. What's everybody going to do? They're going to jump. Right. A gunshot go off. What everybody going to do? They're going to jump. Right. So there's different things that, again, literally will react to them. But, what do you think about that? What is it? And I'll go ahead and just jump in, because one of the things that I've realized today, actually, just thinking about this a little bit further, and this is kind of why I brought this up as far as talking about it today, is that literally self-leadership is a prevention when it comes to habits, right? Yeah. Because if you think about what self-leadership is all about, it's all about you. And it's all about really the practice of self-leadership, really aligning yourself to really understanding, again, everything about you and how it connects.
Right.
Allowing you to then correct or create the type of thoughts, the type of actions, right? Even the type of environment that you really want to be in, so you can be the best you, right? And that's what self-leadership is all about. And so I can be the best version of me, because here's the reality. I can't lead other people if I can't lead myself. Yep. And the best way to do that is to really identify with, okay, I need to have the right habits so I can make sure that I'm making the right type of decision so I can interact with people correctly, so I can then create the right environments that allow everybody to work correctly, but then I also have the right processes and procedures, right? So the D, the I, the S, and the C, right? But that all comes from self-leadership.
Yeah. I think too, man, I think we can all look just throughout history, just in our personal lives, and we know a lot of great people or good people, but they're bad leaders. That's just, we can talk about CEOs who went to jail because they did their own thing. There was no self-leadership. Pastors, teachers, it's across the board, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the kind of the other thing you said about whether it's smell, I think it's everything. It's smell and what you see. It could be a touch.
Right.
All those things are relevant to those bad experiences where a person could just lose it. You know what I'm saying? At any given time. But like you said, I think that's one of those key components, getting to that self-leadership. Because even with self-leadership, which is talking about being self-aware, that's the only way you get to even recognizing those bad habits, those bad things, and it gets even goes into back into your values and things, because to be able to recognize that, okay, this doesn't line up with this.
Right.
So
yeah, and then the purpose, right? Even I said that again, a part of really identifying habits is all connected to our purpose, or even creating them. Right. If I know what my purpose is, and really kind of the 4 P's, like if you identify your purpose, then you have your priorities. Then from your priorities, you can then go into being more productive. Right. Which then after you know your purpose, then you identify the priorities that align with your purpose. Now you're more productive. And right now, when you're getting that productivity based on your purpose, that's when you start creating those habits, because now it all aligns. And then again, it's practice, right? Repeating that type of stuff over and over and over and over and over again, because again, now you're moving towards that results or those objectives that you're looking for.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I think most people, the average person hearing this, like myself as a teenager, 10, 15, 20 years ago, now speaking about, I could have logically understood this, but like, what would incentivize me to really pursue this? Because honestly, it sounds like work, bro.
Yeah, you're right. It does. Yeah. You said as a teenager, what was incentivized me to do to this?
Yeah, I mean, just thinking like whether a teenager, early 20s, mid 20s, I'm thinking about the years where I was a knucklehead, and I can really think back 2 years ago when I was a knucklehead. So, like,
hey, I can think last week. To be honest, last week I was
Exactly. When I think about it, well, we're talking about several things, right? When we talk about self-leadership, we talk about the value of self-awareness, and it's like, okay, well, when I'm thinking of a young me, it's like I haven't run into the consequences that would give me the wisdom to hear and understand what was really being communicated. But then when I think about me a bit older, where I've been through some stuff, and it's like I don't even know where to start. But at the end of the day, if I were to boil this down, we're talking about a couple things for me. We're talking about self-actualization, the ability to self-determine, and I could take it all the way to Proverbs chapter 1, where it talks about giving young men discretion in their decision making, which basically just means it empowers you and gives you the ability to make decisions, good decisions for yourself, right? Like, and I even think about our history as a people. When we talked about Black Power, that's scary to a lot of people. It's not like it's just us around here. We're minorities, and the idea of us having power might scare some folks. But honestly, what we were saying was we have the ability to self-determine. We are not going to let other cultures, other people who may or may not look down on us, tell us who we are, what we can do, and how we can live our lives. And so this is a very similar movement on an individual level, right? Because what we hear, if you don't write your story, somebody else will write it for you. If you don't place a value on yourself, nobody's going to place value. Is right? They're going to play you cheap, right? We could take from the streets to the boardroom. It translates.
Yeah.
So when we're saying, hey, this self-leadership journey is worth it, and we're saying it based on experience, please don't have to go through what we went through to get to this spot, right? We're saying you can get out of your own way. You can figure out how to be the best version of you. You can find purpose and really make a difference, and you can do it and make a living, and you can do it and take care of your family, and you can do it and put clothes on your kids' backs. Like it doesn't have to be a mutually exclusive like that. Like I either have to choose this thing that's fulfilling and that I'm passionate about, or I have to go out here and make money, whether that's on the corner or in the corporate office. We're saying if you really figure this out, if you figure out how to lead yourself, you can lead others better. You can make yourself more hireable. You can 10x your earning potential. You can learn how to be a husband even though your father wasn't around. You can learn how to be a father even though your father wasn't around, etc., etc. But it really takes you looking at yourself, asking yourself these hard questions, seeking out community and relationships that help sharpen you, right? Because your development depends on your circle, right? Your development is only going to go as far as your circle. And that's what we're really talking about. When we're talking about how you need to identify your habits and work on those things, we want to empower you to be the best you can be. And that's all, it's completely up to your ability to self-determine.
Yeah, I don't know who's going to follow that.
I don't got nothing to say, man. I don't got nothing to say. We can wrap it up.
Yeah, but I love how he asked the question and then answered the question, right?
Yeah, that's what he do.
Yeah, that's what he do. No, brother, I love it, right? Brother, I love it because again, I think you brought up a good point. But to answer your question, if you didn't hear your answer, right, it's really about you. It's your decision, right? So literally, if you think about it, if I know, the old saying, if I knew what I knew then, what I know now, right? Exactly, right. So, and I think even now, what we're seeing in this generation, right? Your millennials and your X's and your Y's, your Z's and W's, or whatever the case may be, right? All those generations. Like, again, I think they're actually seeking value, right? They want value, especially when we think about just from a job perspective. And I mean, here's the reality. Really, they're even looking for development within their job, right? They're seeking, they're like, look, I'll do the job. I'm even passionate about it, but can you help me do it? Can you help me become better? And the reality of it is that all three of us know that, again, to a degree, yes, they can, but really the work is on you. It's always going to be on you.
Yes.
I would definitely say, again, once I got into that personal development, understanding, right, and became literally a crackhead for it, like I can't get enough of it. I gotta be there. I gotta have it. Like I start itching if I ain't read a book or I did something. Like you just have to have that desire, and then it's one of those things. Once you get the itch, man, and you scratch it, it's a wrap. You just go into it because you see the value in it, right? And that's what I heard you say. That's what I heard you say. That again, it's one of those things that, again, it's your decision, right? It's going to be your determination. It's going to be you really looking at you, identifying who I want to be. But in order for me to be that, I got to do this.
Right.
Yes.
Right. I got to become this person. And it's always about that. Right. And it's all pounding. What I love about it is because, again, and I think I made a post yesterday about that again, we ain't got to make this thing hard. We really don't. Even as leaders, we don't have to make this thing hard. Right. The reality of it is, as individuals, we just need to be better today than we were yesterday, right? And as leaders, right, I just need to take what I learned today and apply it tomorrow. And what I learned yesterday, apply it today. This thing it doesn't have to be that difficult, right? And just continue that process.
That's real. Yeah, one of my favorite quotes from our mentor, John Maxwell, is he says that the only way to guarantee tomorrow will be better is by choosing to grow today.
Mm.
Drop the mic. Well, don't drop your mic because then you have to get nothing but drop the mic. Right. Well, I mean, but yeah, you can't. Hey, don't get no better than that.
You can't look at nobody else. You can't look for nothing else. The only way you can guarantee tomorrow will be better is by growing today.
Mm.
Yeah, intentionally, though.
Yeah.
Right. One of the things I can definitely, and I'm gonna speak like so. I'm gonna kind of give a little testimony here. Literally, lately, I have changed my mindset to think about. So it's so easy for us to, from a habit perspective, to really get upset, right, or even just get down on ourselves when things don't go right, right? Like it just especially for us C's, right? Because what we're like my man Ian saying, right? I'm a recovering perfectionist, right?
Yeah.
If things aren't perfect, like our whole world shuts down. But you know what I'm gonna tell you, bro? Lately, I've been going in with the mindset of like, it's okay. Right. I'm literally okay. I'm okay. Like it's not that serious. And definitely I would say this in this time that we're living in right now, this pandemic and just everything else that's going on. I mean, literally the world is going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs right now. Like everything is just crazy. Right. I'm not tripping. Right. I'm not tripping. Like if I'm healthy and happy and my family's happy and they healthy, hey, check, done. Right? Check, done. Yeah. So that's kind of my mindset, right? And I've been trying that habit now that I think about it, right? That I'm just going into it. I'll do what I have to do, but I'm not going to make this thing difficult, right? I'm not going to make this thing difficult. So, and I don't know if anybody was going to jump in real quick, but I just going to. So another part of this. So when we're identifying core habits, came up and found this kind of sequence or kind of a formula, so to speak. So one is identify the poor habit, identify the triggers, what's the root cause, consequences, solution, and results. Right. So what's the bad habit? So I kind of even gave this example, and I'll use this example again. So my poor habit was this: I have a messy desk. If I show you my camera, my desk ain't messy. So I'm just using this as an example. I'm just saying. Whatever, Shante, whatever. So I got my poor habit is a messy desk, right? Okay. So what's the trigger? The trigger was I was worried about picking up my daughter, right? So the poor habit is my desk is all messy because my trigger was I'm worried about picking up my daughter. So I'm all discombobulated, right? The root cause is poor time management. So I'm not managing my time. Right. So the habit is messy desk. The trigger is I'm thinking about the things I got to do later, like picking up my daughter. So the root cause is poor time management. So what's the consequences? Leaving things undone. That's the reason why I'm all mess, because I didn't complete any project, complete anything. I'm just around. So what's the solution? Better planning, right? Or even better yet, create a plan. Plan out your day, right? Use time management skills, time blocking, right? Different things like that. And then that's the solution. And then the result, guess what? Reduced stress, more focus, right? And then again, what? Getting the things done. So again, the bad habit was, or the poor habit was a messy desk. The trigger was me worried about getting things done because I had 1,001 things I needed to get done. The root cause was, again, I didn't have good time management. And then the consequence was me just leaving things undone. The solution, better planning. The results, now less stress, more organized, better day.
Yeah, better keep that desk clean. Have no messy desk around here, man.
Listen, I can mute you. I'm gonna hit mute.
I think one thing too that Ian was saying, which is important, is talk about the circle, or one of you guys about the circle and the people. And we need to realize that there is a season for everything. Some people are holding on to relationships. I'm not saying that a person is bad, but they're not part of where you're really trying to go. That don't mean you still can't be friends with them, but we allow some people to hold us back when we don't need to allow them to do that. And so if I'm trying to think of how it goes, I heard somebody say, if you're the smartest one in the group, you need to find another group. Yeah. And it isn't saying that you need to stop dealing with them people, but eventually you're just going to become stagnated. And guess what? If you have any type of plans outside of that group, you can't reach them with those people. It's just a fact. Because if they're not on your level, if you're the smartest one in the group, now there's two things. Some people are the smartest people in the group and they just selfish like that because they want to be the smartest people in the group. And then other people that they just don't realize that those people hold them back, even though they're encouraging them to do the stuff, but they don't have the skills to encourage them the proper way and to be like, guess what? You need to get a mentor. Guess what? You need to connect with this person or that person, or so. Because if you're reading the personal growth books and everybody else reading other types of books, it just ain't gonna. Don't mean you can't have a relationship. It's just that it's not gonna help you get to where you're gonna go. So I think that's one thing we really need to realize, that hey, we need to change groups sometimes.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, relationships are heaven's currency. I believe that. I believe it. I know. I mean, that's not biblical.
Say one more time. Say one more time.
Heaven's currency.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, they really do matter. Like when we talk about, we define leadership kind of early, like 20 episodes ago. All right, leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. And so, when you think about your influence, one of the things that you will eventually come to realize is that you're under the influence of others as well. And so how does that play out? What are the people, how are they influencing you? One of the most powerful exercises that I've gone through, we've talked about values, like determining what your values are. Okay, so nailing down what are the most important things to you. Take your top 5 values. And you're close and line them up next to your closest friends. Rate yourself on those values and then rate your friends on those values. How much alignment do you have?
Besides getting your feelings hurt, I don't know.
How much alignment is there? That'll tell you if you're in the right spaces or not. And like I said, it doesn't mean you got to kick them to the curb. I've got some friends that I love dearly, but I realize like we can't rock out like that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. We're not going to be on the same platform. And I'm not talking about a stage. I'm talking about purpose. I'm talking about finding fulfillment. Where I find fulfillment isn't where they find fulfillment. Shante talked about whether you reading personal growth books and they ain't reading those books, or if they're not reading anything at all. You know what I'm saying? If you have somebody, they may be going a different direction, but if they're pursuing something, if they're working towards something, then there's something that you can benefit from there. Yeah. But if they're not pursuing anything, it's going to be very difficult for you to gain momentum because you're going to be forever looking over your shoulder.
Yeah. Yeah,
bro. Drop the mic, man. Drop the mic, man. I'll buy you another one. I'll buy you another one. Just drop it.
Hey, he been coming in he came in, but then he came in just bam. Every time he started talking, he's dropping them. But man, yeah. And I think the thing that I keep hearing y'all say, especially when Shante just talked about just finding a different group, and it's all about, again, not Nicole, but this where you position them, right? Where they are in your circle, right? And where they are as far as in your life and how they add value to your life. It actually makes me think about man, I think this is so good too, because she sent me a text, and she was talking about the difference between a yard sale and a flea market. And she said, I don't know if I can find it fast enough, but she said basically, she's like, you're basically turning around and selling something to someone else for, a certain type of value, right? And she was like, so me and my mom had this thing. We started thinking through these different things. So she was basically passing the ball to me, and she was like, well, so what do you think about that? And what I said was this, and I'm wondering if I can find it because I think it's gonna make sense to what we're talking about here. Boom, yeah, here it is. So she said, interesting thought. Yard sale or flea market is about owning something that I've used and no longer and selling it to someone else for a reduced price. I'm gonna repeat it. So a yard sale is about owning something that you used to use, no longer want, and then you're selling it to someone at a reduced price. Mm-hmm. So what you're really doing is something that you no longer has value to me and reselling it as something of value. So that's kind of even talking about to the circle that you were talking about, right? That again, if we're in a room and we're the smartest person in the room, where's the value? Not that the room wasn't valuable before, you're just in a different place now. So what I said was, it's not that it doesn't have value, but it doesn't serve the same value proposition that it when you needed it the first time. Exactly. So again, the same thing about the people. So it's not that they're not valuable, they're just not the same. It's just not the proposition now. You're in a different place. Your value system is changed. So you still see in it, and this is why you're selling it, but by selling it, you're placing a value on it to add value to someone else. Because that's why you're selling it. Otherwise, you would do what? Throw it away or give it away, because that's the value you placed on it. But if you're going to sell it to someone else, that means that there is a value still to it, and you're not disvaluing it. It's just the value that the position and the value that you have on it doesn't really, it's not necessary for you anymore. But it's valuable to someone else. And if someone comes and buys it, then they also see the value in it as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's dope.
So, and that's what I heard basically kind of what you guys said, that again, it's the circles, the rooms, the people, whatever, like they still have value, but it just value proposition is different now.
That's real. And
that's it. Yeah. And that's just even like with us on here, right? As we came together, right? We, we're united, you know, God put us together, but again, our different values, and it's interesting. More and more our relationship gets together. I mean, I see our value growing, right? So we're growing each other, right? Our value is increasing in each other. Like I would definitely say that because of our connection and our brotherhood that we've developed, that it's not even about being smarter than the other individual. It's about hey, this is what I learned. This is what I got, right? This is what, hey, can you use this? Or I pitch it to you and then you're like, no, oh, that's beautiful. Let's remix it. And you're like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it's just a constant cycle.
Yeah. You know, it's funny you mentioned that. Both of you guys kind of touched on like being the smartest person in the room. You know, a couple of years ago, a handful of years ago, when I started my personal growth journey, I ran across this kind of redefinition of what is smart. Because, you know, we all understand the school we are definition of smart, right? Where you get good grades on tests. Right, you know how you can raise your hand and answer the teacher's question. You know what it is, but really that's not what. Like I no longer define intelligence that way, and it's really rooted in how willing are you to learn, like how committed are you to learning something, right? And the fact that we're all on this journey at any given time, based on what we're learning and where we are, what season we're in. Any of us could be the smartest person in the room, and it doesn't have to be me because, right, we sow into each other.
Yeah, man, that's so good.
Well, let me tell you this, because you know the way that this affected me, it impacted me not only as an individual but as a parent. So now when I talk to my son, we could talk about you getting a good grade, right? We could talk about you passing the test. We could talk about you, you know, figuring out the puzzle, but it's the work involved. I'm like, bro, you worked hard. I saw how hard you worked trying to put that puzzle together. I saw how focused you were, how determined you were. And that's where I'm piling my praise on. So he knows that the value is in the process, not just the destination. So it it don't matter what everybody said, what everybody else says. Who's smart? How smart are you, or whatever? It's who's willing to really commit themselves to the process. And I'm hoping that at some point my father that'll click in my son, so he'll understand like this. Whatever I put my mind to, it's only going to be as good as how my commitment.
Right. Yeah. Hey, if y'all just now joining us, man, this is the Brothers of Influence podcast, man, where our man Ian is dropping bombs right now, right? So we're talking about identifying it. Exactly. We're talking about addressing poor habits. And yeah, hey, if you jumped on, if you're seeing this recording after the fact, hey, drop us a note, let us know how we did, let us know, give us some feedback. We'd love to hear from you. Hope this has been a blessing to you. But as we come to a close, because we're right at an hour, fellas, any last final remarks? And I'm just going to take Shantae. You might want to get in front of this brother because he's on the roll.
I'm just glad to be in the room with y'all, man. That's all. I came home and my wife was like, man, they still live 20, 30 minutes. You can go ahead and get on. I said, okay. Up in there, let's get in the room with my brothers.
Say less, say less.
Shout out to Miss Williams.
Right. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
So, yeah, man, I would just say, we've all been there. We've had bad habits. We've had to change habits. And I would just say, there's a process and you have to, if you can't change something you don't recognize. And oftentimes people we know that's close to us tell us, oh, man, do you know you do this when this happens, or when somebody says this, you do this, and we be like, no, I don't do that. We need to pay attention to that, because oftentimes those closest to us reveal us. Those closest to us reveal us. And I would just say take advantage of that and then start that process of change.
Awesome. All right, big dog, what you got?
I already said my piece, man. I'm just glad to be in the room with y'all. That's it.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I just love this conversation. I think this is a conversation that we can always have. It's just, again, poor habits, man, and identify them. And again, here's the reality. What we're talking about is very simple, right? This ain't complicated. It's all about you, right? How you can be the best version of you, right? And then really looking at and really taking that sheet, that value sheet, and really just checking off, okay, like, how am I really lining up with my values, right? And what habits are coming because of these values that I said that I'm going to live my life by. So, hey, again, bye for joining. Again, this is the Brothers of Influence podcast, and we're out.